May 1973. The Isle of Wight. A place where families come for peaceful holidays, sandy beaches, and quiet afternoons. But what happened near Sandown that spring would become one of Britain's most disturbing, unexplained encounters. Two 7-year-old children, Harry and Faye, were staying with their families at Lake Common, not far from the local airport. They barely knew each other before this holiday. By the end of that afternoon, they would be bound together by something neither could ever forget. The marshland beyond the airport fence looked inviting, forbidden, the kind of place adults tell you to avoid, which makes it irresistible when you're 7. Harry and Faye slipped away from their families and headed down a footpath that cut deep into the wetlands. Bright sunshine, the squelch of mud under their shoes. Through the chain-link fence, airport workers moved about their routines, oblivious to the two small explorers. Everything felt normal. Then the sound hit them. A siren, loud, blaring unmistakably like an ambulance. It cut through the peaceful afternoon with violent intensity. Harry and Faye froze, spinning around to find the source. Something serious must have happened at the airport. An accident, an emergency. But the workers didn't react. Not one looked up. Not one showed any sign of hearing what was, to the children, a deafening alarm. They continued their tasks as if nothing was happening. Harry grabbed Faye's arm. "Do you hear that?" She nodded, her eyes wide. The men behind the fence worked on in perfect silence. It made no sense. How could they not hear it? Unless only Harry and Faye could hear it. Unless they had slipped into something else entirely. Fear told them to run. Curiosity pulled them forward. The siren seemed to come from deeper in the marsh near a small wooden footbridge ahead. Against every instinct, they crept toward it. The path narrowed. Vegetation pressed in from both sides. The ground grew softer, wetter. And then, as they neared the bridge, the siren stopped. The silence was worse. It pressed against their ears, heavy with anticipation. Something was about to happen. They both felt it. Movement beneath the bridge. Something large hiding in the shadows. Something beginning to emerge. What crawled out from under that wooden structure wasn't human. A figure unfolded itself with agonizing slowness, rising to full height in jerky, mechanical movements. 7 feet tall, maybe more. Harry and Faye dropped into the undergrowth, hearts hammering, not daring to breathe. The way it moved was wrong, stiff, awkward, like someone operating a body they didn't understand. Each step was calculated, robotic, completely lacking any natural human flow. This wasn't someone pretending. This was something that genuinely didn't know how to walk. It lurched toward a patch of open water, and in the bright afternoon sun, the children saw it clearly. No neck. The pointed, cone-shaped head sat directly on square shoulders. Where ears should have been, small antennae jutted out, motionless and purposeful. The skin was pale beyond pale, almost luminescent white, as if the concept of pigmentation had been rejected entirely. And the clothes. God, the clothes. A torn, bright green tunic, grimy and weathered. A dirty yellow hat topped with a rounded metallic bubble that caught the sunlight in strange patterns. The overall effect was clownish, carnival-like, as if something had tried to appear friendly and catastrophically misjudged what that meant. It wasn't whimsical. It was a nightmare, wearing a costume. The figure reached the water and dropped something. What followed was almost comical, if it wasn't so deeply disturbing. It began flailing erratically, unable to bend down properly, its limbs moving in jerky, uncoordinated spasms, like watching someone operate machinery they'd never been trained to use. Finally, it retrieved the object and began moving again. But now its method of locomotion changed to something even stranger. An odd combination of shuffling and hopping, as if it couldn't decide which worked better, or as if it was trying to remember instructions it had once been given. Shuffle hop, shuffle hop, shuffle hop. It headed toward a dense clump of trees and vanished into the shadows. Harry looked at Faye. Faye looked at Harry. Neither spoke. What could they say? What had they just seen? The siren erupted again, louder this time, clearly coming from the trees where the thing had disappeared. And in that moment, both children understood something fundamental had shifted. Whatever that was, it knew they were there, and it wanted them to follow. Harry wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at him to turn around and sprint back to safety. His hand pulled at Faye's sleeve. But Faye didn't move. Her eyes were fixed on the trees where the figure had vanished, where the siren continued blaring. "We should see what it is," she whispered. "Are you insane? That thing isn't normal." "Tell them what? That we heard a sound no one else can hear?" Faye's logic was infuriating. "They'll think we're lying." The siren called to them, impossible to ignore. "What if it needs help?" Harry took a breath. "If anything feels wrong, we run." "Deal." They moved toward the trees. The siren cut off as they reached the first branches. Through the foliage, they could see a clearing. The figure stood there, facing away, holding something. Harry's foot snapped a twig. The figure turned, slowly, mechanically. Triangular patches where eyes should be. A square nose. Crude yellow lips that looked painted on, like a mask poorly integrated with skin. Harry bolted. 3 steps before Faye's voice stopped him. "Wait, it's talking to me. In my head." "What?" "I can hear it, metallic like a robot. It's saying, 'Please don't leave, I won't hurt you.'" She turned to him. "It sounds scared." Harry walked back slowly. They stared at the figure, which held a strange device connected to its chest by a white cable. The siren had come from this. The voice came again. This time Harry heard it too. Not through ears, but in his mind. Metallic, stilted, awkward. "Please stay. I mean no harm. I am lonely." The figure lowered the device and took a hesitant step forward. They stepped back. It stopped immediately, then slowly reached into its pocket and withdrew a notepad and pen. Writing seemed painful, fingers moving stiffly, awkwardly. Finally, it held up the notepad. "Hello, I am all colors, Sam." "Sam? Your name is Sam?" Faye found her voice. The head tilted in what might have been a nod. The metallic voice returned. "Yes, I am Sam. All colors, Sam. I chose colors to be friendly, bright, happy, like children like." Something profoundly sad in that statement. This being had tried so hard to appear approachable and gotten it catastrophically wrong. "Why were you under the bridge?" Harry whispered. "Hiding, always hiding. People see me, they fear, they attack. But you are young, less afraid maybe." "I have been alone long time." Faye took a step forward. "Where are you from?" A pause. "Not from here, from away, very away. I don't know this word alien. I am not monster, not ghost, just different, just alone." The fear was ebbing. Sam seemed less threatening now, more pitiful. "I live near here, in the forest." Hope crept into the voice. "Would you like to see? I have food, water. Would be nice to have visitors, to not be alone." Every childhood warning about strangers should have kicked in, but Sam's loneliness was genuine. It radiated from him. Harry looked at Faye, then nodded. "Just for a little while." Sam's body shifted almost like a smile. He gestured for them to follow and began his shuffle hop through the trees. 5 minutes of walking through increasingly wet ground. Then the trees opened up. Sam's home was rectangular, metallic, completely out of place. The size of a garden shed constructed from dull gray metal that didn't reflect light properly. No windows, just a single door-like opening. My home, you come in, is safe, I promise. Inside was sparse and bizarre. Chairs molded from the walls, a strange heating element, gauges and dials everywhere, their purposes mysterious. Sam gestured to the chairs. Sit, please, I get food. He retrieved berries and water, setting them down with obvious pleasure. Eat, drink, is good. Faye picked up a berry tentatively. It tasted normal. Then Sam took a berry. He lifted it to the opening beneath one antenna, pushed it in. His head jerked sharply to one side. Through the triangular eye patch, they saw the berry moving behind it, traveling along some internal track. It appeared briefly in his mouth, then vanished. No chewing, no swallowing, just mechanical movement. Harry and Faye sat frozen. You eat different than us, Faye said carefully. Yes, different. Many things different, but berries good. Water good. These things same. They sat eating while Sam attempted conversation in his halting way. He asked about their families, seemed confused by the concept of holidays. I watch, I listen, I learn about people from far away. It's safer, but lonely. You were first to talk to Sam in very long time. Don't other people come here? Harry asked. Some, but they fear. They run or shout. Once men with sticks came. Sam had to hide many days. The patches focused on them. You not run, you stay. This makes Sam happy. Heartbreaking. This being reduced to hiding, desperate for connection. Sam, where do you really come from? Faye asked. Long silence. Sky, not sky. Sam not sure anymore. Long time here. Long time alone. Sometimes forgets. Remembers home, but not where home is. A pause. Maybe no home anymore. Maybe only here. Only marsh. Only hiding. That's sad, Faye said. Yes, but today less sad. Today Sam has friends, maybe? Yeah, Harry said. Friends. 20 minutes passed. Questions Sam struggled to answer. Explanations he didn't fully understand himself. Not a ghost. Not a monster. Just different. Just alone. Eventually they had to return. Families would worry. Sam seemed to understand, though the patches dimmed with disappointment. He walked them back to the tree line near the footbridge. There he stopped. You tell others about Sam? Harry and Faye exchanged glances. Maybe our parents, Faye said. They will come with sticks. Sam will have to leave. Find new hiding place. Always is same. We won't let them hurt you, Faye said with 7-year-old certainty. You are kind. Sam will remember. If you come back, Sam will be happy. If not, Sam understands. Was nice to not be alone. He turned to leave but paused. Thank you for not running. Thank you for being friends with Sam. Then he vanished into the trees. Harry and Faye stood in the afternoon sun, knowing no one would believe them. They were right. But they were wrong about one thing. When Faye told her father about all-color Sam, his reaction wasn't disbelief. It was recognition, because he had his own encounters on this island. Encounters he'd never told anyone about. Strange lights that followed his car. Yellow eyes beneath the water. Things that watched from the darkness. And now his daughter had met something too. The Isle of Wight had been hiding secrets for years. Sam was just one of them. Faye's father didn't laugh when she told him about Sam. He didn't dismiss it as imagination. He sat very still, his face pale, and asked her to describe everything again, every detail. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. The marsh near the airport? Yes. past the footbridge. He stood abruptly. "Show me." They walked to the marsh that evening, Faye leading, her father following with a flashlight. Harry came too. The sun was setting, painting the wetlands orange and gold. Faye led them to the clearing where Sam's metal home had been. It was gone. No structure, no metal walls, no impression in the ground, just marsh grass and mud and evening birds. "It was here," Faye insisted. "Right here." Her father crouched down, examining the ground with the flashlight. Nothing. He stood slowly. "I believe you," he said quietly. "You do?" "Yes, because I've seen things on this island too." The children stared at him. October 1970. I was driving to Ryde one evening. The road cuts past these marshlands. He paused. I saw lights. Red lights, 7 or 8 of them, arranged in a ring around something cylindrical, metallic. They came down from the sky and hovered above the marsh, completely silent. "Like a UFO," Harry whispered. "I don't know what it was, but it followed me. Every time I drove forward, the lights moved with me. Same speed, same distance. When I stopped and got out, shone my torch at it, the lights retreated. The moment I started the engine again, they came closer." Faye had never seen her father look like this, unsettled, frightened. "It happened 3 times. Stop, shine torch. It retreats. Drive, it follows. Like it was playing with me, studying me." His voice dropped. I couldn't shake the feeling I was being hunted. "What happened?" "It disappeared near Ryde, shot up into the sky and vanished. But the way it moved, the way it responded to me, it was intelligent, aware." The marsh seemed darker now. "There's more. March last year. I was driving when I got this compulsion. Overwhelming. I had to go to the cliffs. Had to." "Compulsion?" Harry asked, like something was calling me, pulling me there. He shook his head. I parked and walked to the cliff edge. The sea was rough, stormy. Then I heard this sound. Deep, droning, coming from the water. Faye moved closer to him. I sat on the cliff and looked out. Couldn't see anything at first. Then lights appeared. Yellow. 2 of them. Small. Circular. Rising from beneath the surface. Under the water. Yes. They projected upward like searchlights, illuminating the cliff where I sat. They looked like eyes. Like something massive was down there, watching me. The breeze felt colder. I went to get my camera. The moment I picked it up, the lights disappeared. I put the camera back and returned to the cliff. The lights came back immediately, like it knew what I was doing, knew what a camera was. "Then what?" Harry asked. "It watched me for 10 minutes, lights fixed on me the whole time. I felt exposed, being examined by something I couldn't understand. Then the lights retreated, heading out to sea, keeping me in their beams until they faded completely. Silence settled over them. I never told anyone. I thought I was losing my mind. 2 impossible incidents, both on this island." He looked at his daughter. "But now you've seen something too. Your Sam, whatever he is, he's connected to this. Too many strange things in the same area for coincidence." "You think Sam came from the lights?" Faye asked. "Maybe. Or maybe there are multiple things here. This island might be a crossing point, a place where our world and something else overlap." The idea hung in the air, an entire hidden world of strange encounters, invisible to most, occasionally breaking through. "Why us?" Faye asked. "Maybe it's not just us. Maybe dozens of people have seen things here over the years. But they don't talk about it, afraid of being called crazy. So the encounters stay hidden." He put his hand on her shoulder. "Which is why I believe you about Sam. The awkward movement, the telepathic voice. trying to appear friendly but getting it wrong. Something not human trying to interact, not quite understanding how. Do you think he's dangerous? You spent time with him. Did you feel threatened? No. Scared at first, but not threatened. He seemed lonely. Then maybe that's your answer. Maybe they're not hostile, just different, trying to exist in a world that doesn't understand them. A sound echoed across the marsh, distant, metallic, like the siren. They froze. It came again, closer, then stopped. "Sam," Faye called out. No response, just wind. But Faye's father was scanning the tree line with his flashlight, and his hand was shaking. He'd heard that sound before, 3 years ago, just before the red lights appeared. "We should go," he said quietly. They walked back quickly. Behind them, the marsh settled into darkness. And if something watched them leave, if lights hovered beyond the trees, if a tall figure stood observing, they didn't see it. But they felt it. They were being watched. They had always been watched. And whatever was doing the watching wasn't done with them yet. Back at Lake Common, Faye's father made a decision. He would contact researchers, people who investigated these encounters, because his daughter had stumbled into something significant. In the following weeks, investigators came. Questions were asked. Sketches were drawn. The story of all colors. Sam entered the record books, but they never found the metal structure, never found proof, never found Sam. The marsh kept its secrets. Years would pass. Other people would report strange things on the Isle of Wight. Lights in the sky, odd sounds, glimpses of things that shouldn't exist. Each encounter adding to a pattern no one could fully see. Sam was one piece of that pattern, one entity in a larger mystery. But for two 7-year-old children, he remained the most important piece. The lonely being who had trusted them, who had tried so hard to be their friend, and who had vanished back into the shadows, leaving only questions. Questions that decades later still have no answers. Who was All Colors Sam? Where did he come from? Was he an extraterrestrial visitor, studying humanity from the safety of the marshlands? Was he something else entirely? Something that defies our categories and understanding? The investigators who interviewed Harry and Faye noted the remarkable consistency of their accounts, the level of detail, the genuine emotion when they spoke of Sam's loneliness. Children can fabricate stories, but they rarely maintain such elaborate consistency under repeated questioning. Faye's father's experiences added a layer of credibility that couldn't be ignored. Here was an adult, reluctant to speak, clearly uncomfortable with the attention, describing encounters that predated his daughter's experience, encounters he had told no one about. The pattern suggested something deliberate, a family observed over years. First the father, then the daughter, as if something had been studying them, learning about them, slowly building toward contact. But why? What was the purpose? Sam had said he was lonely, that he hid because people feared him, that he meant no harm. If that was true, if his intentions were benign, then perhaps the answer was simpler than anyone wanted to admit. Perhaps he was just as lost as he seemed, just as confused about his place in the world, just as desperate for connection. Perhaps the real mystery wasn't what Sam was, but why we find it so hard to accept that something different could want the same things we do. Friendship, understanding, a moment of not being alone. The Isle of Wight continues its quiet existence. Tourists come and go. Families holiday in Sandown. Children play in the marshes. And sometimes, very rarely, someone reports something strange. A tall figure glimpsed in the distance. An odd metallic sound with no source. A feeling of being watched by something unseen. The marsh keeps its secrets, and somewhere in those secrets, perhaps Sam is still there, still hiding, still lonely, still hoping that one day someone else will be brave enough not to run. 20 years later, Harry still dreams about the marsh. He's 47 now, living in Manchester, working as an architect. He has 2 children who've never heard the story. How do you tell your kids that when you were 7, you met something that shouldn't exist? But the dreams persist. All was the same. The footbridge, the figure unfolding from beneath, those triangular eye patches turning toward him, and that voice, metallic and desperate, echoing in his skull. Please stay. I am lonely. He wakes up sweating, wondering if Sam is still out there, still hiding, still waiting for someone who won't run. Faye thinks about him too. She went back to the Isle of Wight 5 years after the encounter, walked to the marsh alone, stood at the tree line calling his name. Sam, it's me. Faye, remember? I came back like I promised. Nothing. Just wind and water and the distant sound of planes from the airport. She waited an hour, then another. The sun set. The marsh grew dark. And finally she understood. Sam was gone. Maybe he'd always been gone. Maybe he'd only existed for that one afternoon, a brief intersection of their world and something else. Or maybe he learned that reaching out only brought pain. The investigators never understood what they'd stumbled into. They came with their questions and clipboards, treating Harry and Faye like specimens to be studied. They wanted consistency, evidence, proof. They got consistency. Perfect, unwavering consistency. Every detail matched, every time. And that bothered them more than contradictions would have. Children don't lie this well, one investigator said, frustration bleeding into his voice. Either they're telling the truth or they believe they're telling the truth. But I can't tell which. He returned 3 more times, asked the same questions different ways, looked for cracks in the story, found none. The metal home, he pressed during the 4th interview. Describe it again. Every detail. Faye closed her eyes, remembering. Rectangular, gray metal that didn't shine right. Chairs molded from the walls. Gauges everywhere, like a cockpit. A heating element in the corner, but it didn't look like any heater I'd seen. And it vanished? Yes. Completely? No trace? My father looked. We all looked. Nothing. The investigator leaned back, studying her. You understand how that sounds? I know how it sounds, but it happened. He changed tactics. The berries Sam gave you. Did you feel strange after eating them? Dizzy? Confused? No, they tasted normal. Hallucinations can feel normal while they're happening. Faye met his eyes. I know the difference between real and imaginary. I was 7, not stupid. Sam was real. But was he? Late at night, even, Faye wondered. Memory is unreliable. Children are suggestible. Maybe they'd seen a tall man in odd clothes and their imaginations filled in the rest. Maybe the metal home was a shelter they misremembered. Maybe the whole thing was elaborated over time until the story calcified into false certainty. Maybe. But then she remembered Sam's face, those triangular patches where eyes should be, the square nose, the yellow lips that didn't move when he spoke. No imagination creates details that specific. No false memory maintains that level of clarity for decades. Sam was real. The question was, what was he? The theories came fast. Investigators love theories. They turned the inexplicable into something manageable, something that fit existing boxes. Theory 1, a vagrant in costume. Someone mentally ill living in the marshes who created an elaborate persona to cope with isolation. Faye's father drove that theory into the ground. I searched those marshes for weeks after, talked to everyone who lived nearby. No one had seen anyone matching that description. No missing persons, no reports of squatters, nothing. Maybe he moved on, the investigator suggested. In one evening, with an entire metal structure, without leaving a trace. Her father shook his head. No. Whatever Sam was, he wasn't human. Theory 2 died faster. Shared hallucination from contaminated food or water. Except Harry and Faye had eaten nothing before the encounter. The berries came from Sam, and both children were fine afterward. No symptoms, no side effects. The investigators moved to more exotic explanations. Extraterrestrial contact. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Saying them out loud meant crossing a line from credible to fringe, from researcher to conspiracy theorist. But the evidence fit. Sam's bizarre appearance, his difficulty with basic human movement, his inability to explain his origin, the metal structure that appeared and vanished, the telepathic communication, and most damning, the other sightings. Faye's father's encounters weren't isolated. Investigators found 7 other reports from the Isle of Wight between 1968 and 1975. Lights over the marshes, strange sounds, objects moving beneath the water, figures glimpsed in the distance that didn't move right. One report, filed in 1974, described a tall figure in colorful clothes seen near Sandown Bay. The witness, a local fisherman, said it moved like a puppet on strings before vanishing into the evening mist. The same area, the same time frame, the same impossible movements. Something was active on that island, something that had been there for years, watching, occasionally revealing itself. But one researcher proposed something that made everyone uncomfortable. What if Sam's appearance wasn't real? Dr. Margaret Chen asked during a conference in 1979. What if what the children saw was a projection, a construct designed to make contact less traumatic? She cited cases from around the world, beings with mask-like faces, movements that seemed rehearsed, details that felt artificial, constructed. Screen memories, she called them. The entity shows you something your mind can process, not its true form, because the true form would break you. So it projects something safer. Still strange enough to be memorable, but not so alien that you completely shut down. Sam's clownish appearance, his bright colors, his childlike attempts at friendship. What if those were calculated? What if something studied children, determined what might seem approachable, and created Sam specifically for that purpose? Faye felt sick when she heard that theory, because it made terrible sense. Sam's face had looked like a mask because it was a mask. The lips that didn't move, the eyes that were just triangular patches, the mechanical eating, all of it constructed, performed. Behind that friendly facade, behind the lonely entity asking for companionship, was something else entirely. Something that understood human children well enough to approximate friendliness, but not well enough to get it right. What was he really? Faye asked Dr. Chen years later when they met at a paranormal research symposium. I don't know, Chen admitted, but I don't think he was alone. Reports of entities like Sam appear throughout history. Different cultures at different eras, but always the same pattern. Beings that almost look human, almost move right, almost communicate properly, like something trying very hard to pass and falling just short. The fair folk, Chen continued, European folklore is full of them. Beautiful, terrible beings that live in wild places. They offer gifts, make bargains, sometimes steal children away. They're not quite physical, not quite spirit. They exist in the spaces between. You think Sam was a fairy? Faye couldn't keep the skepticism from her voice. I think Sam was something we don't have a name for. Something that predates our categories of alien and ghost and cryptid. Something that's always been here, in the thin places, occasionally crossing into our awareness. Chen leaned forward. The Isle of Wight is thin. The marshes, the cliffs, the waters around it. Thin places where reality grows strange. Your father saw things there for years. You saw Sam. Others have seen other things. It's not random. That island is a crossing point. Crossing from where? Somewhere else. Somewhere close but separate. And whatever lives there, it's curious about us. It watches, it studies, and sometimes it reaches out. Faye thought about that. About Sam hiding in the marshes, afraid of humans, desperately lonely. About the red lights following her father's car. About yellow eyes staring up from beneath the waves. All of it connected. All of it part of something larger. Why children? She asked. Why approach kids instead of adults? Because children haven't learned to be afraid yet. They're open, accepting. An adult sees Sam and runs, calls the police, organizes a hunt. But children? Children might stay, might listen, might offer the connection these entities seem to crave. It painted a tragic picture. Intelligences separated from humanity by barriers they didn't understand, watching us with longing, occasionally trying to bridge the gap, always failing because they couldn't quite grasp how to do it right. Sam's loneliness wasn't a trick. It was real. He was genuinely isolated, genuinely desperate for contact, genuinely trying his best to be friendly. His best just happened to look like a nightmare. Faye went back to the Isle of Wight one more time. 2003, 30 years after the encounter. She stood at the marsh and spoke to the empty air. Sam, if you're there, if you can hear me, I want you to know something. I wasn't afraid of you. Not really. Not after those first moments. I saw you. The real you under all the strangeness, and you were just lonely. Just sad. Just wanting someone to talk to. The marsh was silent. I'm sorry people hurt you. I'm sorry you had to hide. I'm sorry the world wasn't kind enough to accept you as you were. Wind moved through the grass. If you're still here, you don't have to hide from me. You never did. She waited until sunset. Then she walked away. Sam never appeared. Maybe he was gone. Maybe he'd moved on to some other thin place, some other attempt at connection. Or maybe he was there, watching from the shadows, still too afraid to show himself, still carrying the weight of rejection and fear, still lonely. The story of all colors. Sam has no ending, no resolution, no proof that settles the debate. Just two children, now adults, who carry the memory of an impossible afternoon, who know with absolute certainty that they met something real, something that wanted nothing more than to be understood. And perhaps that's the real mystery. Not what Sam was, but why we find it so hard to believe that something strange could want the same things we do. Connection, friendship, a moment of not being alone. The marshes of the Isle of Wight remain quiet. The sky above them holds its secrets. The waters around the island keep their mysteries. And somewhere in that silence, in those secrets, in those mysteries, maybe Sam is still waiting. For someone brave enough not to run. For someone kind enough to see past the mask. For someone who understands that monsters, real or imagined, can be lonely too. The question isn't whether Sam was real. The question is, what are we missing by being too afraid to look?